The paints that I use for my True Fire effect are exclusively House of Color. I've had great success using House of Color paints. Their variety of colors, the intensity of colors are unparalleled with any other out on the market. The colors that I use for the True Fire effect are, we have basically 3 or 4 solid colors and 3 candy colors. Candy colors are transparent colors, and then the solid colors being the base for all the candy colors to work over. The first color that I use is Molly Orange, which is basically, well, you can see the color right here. It's just sort of like a reddish orange. Then I use a chrome yellow, and then passion purple pearl are the solid colors. If I'm working over a black base, which this fire looks best over black, I'll use a black base coat to actually erase some of my unwanted strokes that I'll put down. And then the white solid color, the white base, I'll mix with the chrome yellow to get my hot spots on the fire. Now the 3 candy colors that I use, and these are very important. This is the secret to this whole True Fire effect, is the use of candy colors. These are the candy concentrates. I'll mix them with SG100. SG100 is just a base coat without color in it. And the candy concentrates are basically a dye, and you mix them the same way that you would mix, say, base coat. You mix so much concentrate to so much SG100 and then reduce. The colors that I use for the candy are the Candy Apple Red, okay, which is the KK11, Candy Tangerine, which is the KK08, and the Pagan Gold Candy, which is KK12. That's the yellow. It's not really gold, it's a yellow. These colors right here are the secret to make this stuff glow outside in the sunlight. There are a lot of guys out there that are just, they're trying to reproduce it, but they're not using the candy colors. They're just seeing the base colors, and then what they do is they'll get something that's pretty close, but it doesn't have the same pop. And the reason why it doesn't have the pop is because they're not using the candy colors where they're supposed to use it. And I will show you in this DVD how to achieve that glow that everyone else is trying to get and just can't seem to achieve. I've already pre-mixed my colors, but I'm going to mix up a couple of them here to show you how I do it. I'll mix up a solid color, and I'll also mix up one of the candy colors. First thing I'll do is I'll mix up one of the candy colors. I'll mix up some Candy Apple Red. We're going to use the SG100 Intercoat Clear and make up my candy base. Now this base, the mixture is 2 to 1. It's pretty simple. 2 parts base, 1 part reducer. And as far as the candy goes, you put in, I like to mix it what I call hot. I don't like having a really light candy. I like it really dark, and I like it to go to color pretty quick. So you just use the little guides here on these cups that you can get at your local auto paint store, and right here is 2 to 1. So we'll take the Intercoat Clear, the SG100, find my number, where are we here, 2 to 1, and I'll mix to the 3. And then I like to use the RU311 reducer. It's the medium reducer. Depending on your location, you may want to adjust your reducers to either the hot environment or the cold environment. So this is like a medium reducer, and it's good for just about every application that we use, okay? So then I'll move this out of the way. Next to the 3. And then I'll take the Candy Apple Red, concentrate, and I'll just pour it right in. So I'm a little freer when I'm working on a black vehicle. And like I said, I've done a lot of these, so I don't need a good reference shot, but if you have good references of fire, you can look and see how it's actually built. So what I would recommend doing is going out and taking a digital camera, go to a campfire or whatever, and just when the fire's up roaring really good, just snap off a bunch of pictures, and then you can keep them on a disc, print out some copies, and actually look at each individual frame is different, totally different, so you get a different look on every one of them. And then just select a good one, print a good color copy of it, and use it for reference. You can see the colors, the shapes, the way the fire moves, and you're not guessing. If you guess, it'll look like you're guessing. So basically this is what I got. It's kind of loose. You can see a general shape of where the fire is going. Okay. Now the next step, this is the Molly Orange. I'll do this on the entire vehicle, bike, motorcycle, car, truck, whatever. The next step that I would do is I would clean out the airbrush, go to the mini jet, and take the candy apple red and tint this back to a dark red. And for this demonstration here, I'll just use the airbrush. But when I'm working on a vehicle, I'll actually use the mini jet to get a good coverage. Now, one little tip when you're painting this candy color on a dark color, say black, okay, the candy is transparent. So wherever it goes over a lighter color than the background, it's going to show up. Wherever the candy goes off the lighter color and goes over the black is darker, so it won't show up against it. So it kind of disappears. So you're actually freer to just paint it wherever you want. When you work on lighter colors like orange or red or even say like a blue, you know, where the background is actually lighter than the fire that you're working on, you got to be real selective about where you put the candy. You got to put it really close to the fire, otherwise you're going to get a really nasty glow line going around the outside. Where on the black, that's the beautiful thing about working on black, it just disappears, so you have the freedom to just put it wherever you want. And I'm just going to tint this. And you can kind of see on this panel where the candy's going. Now you should be wearing your mask, but for demonstration purposes, I can't explain to you how I do this with a mask over my face. So just know that we wear a mask all the time, and you should too. Okay, that's pretty much it right there. Now you can see where I've changed that orange to a red. Now if you notice, there's a little slight powder here that's overspray from the candy. What I do in between coats is I'll take the tack rag. Now this is dry now, and I'll just tack rag in between coats, get up any loose particles of dried paint. Now this stuff dries pretty quick. It's all base coat. So now you can see here's the overspray that you've taken off. Now, in reality, I could have left that on there and it would have melted into the clear and you wouldn't have seen it, but it's just easy to take it off and keep your surface nice and clean. Okay, now, the next step is go back to the Molly Orange again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean out the airbrush, run the reducer through the airbrush. Okay. Now here's where it starts to get tricky. This is where the freehand shields start coming into play. We have our own TrueFire freehand shields that we're developing that actually are in the works right now. But I've used these, and make sure you use solvent-proof ones, because if you don't, the base coats will actually fold these up like a potato chip, and then you're going to have your investment go right down the toilet. Okay, so now what I've done is, you can see where I've got some general shapes going on over here. This is going to end up actually being the background fire. It's not going to be the actual flame. When you look at a picture of fire, you're going to see like a fire, really red fire in the background, and then it gets lighter and lighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. Well, this here is the fire that's in the background. So we're painting this picture backwards. But what I want to do is I want to find one of these shields that you like, find a shape, and what I'll do is I'll spray up against it like so. Okay? And then I'll come around and I'll grab another side of the mask and I'll lay it just away from it. Now picture fire being like a piece of bubble gum. If you blow a bubble, it starts off really thick And as soon as you put air into it, it stretches the bubble gum and it gets thinner in the middle and little, you can almost see through it. But towards the edges, there's a lot more gum, so it gets thicker. It's the same way with these fire licks. Now if you look like right here, you can see what I've done right here. It's lighter here. I mean, it's darker, I mean, brighter here and brighter here, but you can actually see through the middle. That's what we're doing here. So don't paint all the way across. And what I'll do is I'll kind of give it a general shape like this. And if you look, one thing that I tend to do with my fire is I'll kind of paint shapes that people are familiar with from regular flame jobs, because that's where the traditional flame job came from, was people trying to copy fire. So then they came up with this stylized version of fire, and I'll put some of these licks in there to kind of like a throwback to the real fire, traditional flame jobs rather. So people look at that and it kind of clicks with them, you know, fire, flame job, and it's not totally organic shapes. So then, now I got these shapes here that I've loosely laid out. Now I'll find the corresponding edge to the freehand shield, and I'll kind of just do something like this. Maybe put a little burning ember. A lot of it's freehand, and a lot of it's going to be by eye. I mean, you can't totally use these shields, but it's nice to have a nice sharp edge going into a soft edge. And I don't move slow, but you may want to take it slow at first when you start doing this. It may get confusing for you at first, but if you have, like I said, if you have a good reference shot, you can go by and you just paint what you see. That's the best advice I can give you, is get a good reference shot and paint what you see. Okay? Now remember, with this black, I'm going to be able to come back in and take out anything I don't like. So I'm not locked in, it's not locked in stone right now. Okay, so now there you can see some of the movement that we got going on. Here's another thing, and you can see how these things will work for these shapes, where you can just take and you spray that shape there, you can spray that shape there, you know, right there, and then you can pick and choose how you're going to do these. Now you can see how this is laying out, and it's very similar to that. Now the very first thing that we painted in the background, this red, is actually going to be like this color right back here. And then we'll get into the middle area, which will be more like this. And then we'll get up to the super bright right up in here. Roughly 8 colors, but when you add them all in together and you put the candy colors on, they compound themselves. So you'll end up with virtually hundreds of different colors, depending on the different values that you have of this one color, from right here to the brightest bright to mid to not so dark. I mean, not so bright, then even darker. So that's what makes this thing really work, is the candy colors and being able to get all those different amounts of color in there, instead of just putting down orange or yellow and red. Okay, so I've already gone and put the candy orange on top of the orange again. Now the next thing that I do is I'll take and I'll go with the chrome yellow. And I like to use chrome yellow because it's more of an orangey yellow. You can use a lemon yellow, but it tends to be more green. And there's another reason why I like using these little bottles, because I can just put just a little bit into this cup. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to build on what I've already have. So I'm going to kind of go like that there, and that there. Now if you look at this, it's very similar to what you see right here. See, it's darker in the center and lighter on the edges. And when we put the candy orange back over this yellow, we're going to end up with this color back here. So this mid-range yellow-orange color. Now here's what I was telling you about before, how I like to crisscross these licks. If you just keep painting over the same one, it's just going to be one flat level fire lick without any dimension. Well, what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll crisscross it. Kind of crisscross it like that. And then maybe do a little freehand. Maybe I'll blow off just a little bit there, and it's easier for me to point with this. If you see all these little lines, it's not all just this shape over and over and over and over again. There's a lot of different movement going on. Okay, like right in here is a really cool one. I tend to leave these in because at the end, when you clear coat everything, you're going to see every color from the very bottom all the way up through the top. So you'll see this line through that one, through that one, through this one, and it'll give the illusion of depth. A lot of guys would just, they kind of want to just paint just that lick, just like that, and just leave it there. What I like to do is I like to maybe give some movement in there, like this. And then we fog it in a little bit. That's real important too, is you pull back with the airbrush and kind of fog it, but you're not covering up what you did. You can still see through it. But you see all this little movement we got going on here? We got the same thing going on over here. There's one thing that I do, I call it bridging, where I'll have, say, a lick, and this is real important right here. Say I have this lick right over here that I've painted. But I want to make the bulk of the flame a little wider instead of adding a bunch of little ones to connect them all together to make a big one. What I'll do is I'll take a bigger mask and I'll actually bridge one to another one. Like I'll bridge this one to that one over there. Let's see. Yeah, let's do it like this. And then maybe give it a little connector like that. Let's see what I've done. I've taken that one little lick that I did and I've connected with a bridge to all this other stuff that's going on over here. So now it's a big bulky flame instead of a bunch of little ones. Another thing too is when you're painting this, you're going to want to use flame licks that match the size of your vehicle. So if you're working on a motorcycle tank, you want flame licks that are going to be proportionate in size to the tank. If you go with a big truck or a boat or something, you're going to want to make them bigger. Little glow line. It's a bright little ember that's glowing. And then when you put the candy over it, that little glow line that you got there is going to really add some really nice pop to your lick. And the more you do these, the faster you're going to be able to do them. The first ones are going to take you some time because they're going to be a little confusing. And you're going to be like, oh, it doesn't make any sense. It looks really confusing. And am I doing it right? And there's no rules. If you look at this is the beautiful thing about this too. There's no rules to this. You know, just have fun with it. All right, for demonstration purposes, we're just going to come in with the candy orange and do this in the booth instead of out there because I'm going to be killing my cameraman if I don't do it in here. You can see how that's changing the colors. This is the part that's really important. These candy colors. Without them, your fire does not have any life whatsoever. You may want to, like, down in these darker areas where you want it to be darker, just add a little more candy down in there to darken it up. Give it another level. You can push that little ember back, push that one back. There you go. That's pretty good. Just gone in and I sprayed the orange candy on the panel. Now you can see how it's changed all these colors. Now, the reason why this candy is so important, it actually makes this stuff look like there's a light behind it. Where if you use solid colors, the light gets trapped in there and just kind of stays there. But with the transparent colors, it kind of transfers out through the color and gives it a really cool glow. Okay, now we got the candy orange. I'm going to come back with my chrome yellow again. Make sure you give it a shake. Now I'm just gonna, we're getting close to the end of the fire. So now I'm not gonna add any more licks. I'm kind of gonna beef up what I've got here already. Now I'm gonna pick the brightest brights. Like I may hit just a little bit inside that ember right there, maybe one there, one there. You can redefine some of these licks that you got going on. You can see how I reduce the size of the flame by just pushing this thing closer together instead of leaving so much space in there. I just maybe come in and just reduce it down a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to find just the right shape you want. Just gonna flip these things around till you get the shape that you're looking for. That's looking pretty good so far. Now remember, the fire is going to be brightest at its source and darkest the further away it gets from its source. So I want all the brightness to be more down here. Like if this was a motorcycle tank, or see how this one here is in the front, it's brighter here in the front and it gets darker as it goes around towards the back. That's what you want to achieve here too. If you make it bright all the way through, then there's no beginning and there's no end to the fire. Gotta give it some reason for doing what it's doing. A lot of times I'll just kind of go like this and I'll build a shape roughly and I'll look at it and I'll go, okay, there's a shape similar to what I just freehanded, and I'll just want to sharpen that up a little bit. And then I'll just leave one side open, leave it soft. Here's another little thing. This is a little artistic license, all right? You're painting the illusion of light. So you really can't have shadows because light and light and light, there's no shadows, okay? But if you want to give the illusion of something behind something else, like one of these licks make it look like it's rolling behind another one, that'll add to your depth and add to your realism. What I do is I'll take, like, say right here, it looks like there's a really nice hole that goes back in there. But if I want to make this piece of fire look like it's over that one, and I want to make that one look like it's over that one, what I'll do is I'll make this one brighter, like this. Now you can see how that one actually looks like it's over that one there. I may even kind of give this one a little bit of an edge like that. Like that. Alright. Now if I want to give this to make it look like there's a shadow there, or give it the illusion of this one is actually casting a shadow over that one, I'll kind of keep the mask off the surface a little bit and just give it a light. Now you see how that created like a soft shadow right there? So that actually looks three-dimensional. It actually looks like that one is over that one by just making this edge a little bit lighter than where it goes underneath that lick. And you can stylize these. You can make them look like they're twisting around and wrapping around, and you can have a little bit of fun with them too. Now, you're all going to come up with your own little versions on this, your own little styles, and that's what it's all about. But if you take my method here, the way I'm showing it to you, and use it as a guide, and then just have fun with it, come up with your own ideas. I've put faces in the fire. I've done all kinds of things with it that make it cool. I've changed the colors of fire. I've done green fire. Here's a good example of some green fire here and some blue fire right here. And in another video we'll show you how we do these, because these are done differently than I do this realistic fire. Same basic shapes, but a different system. And we'll show that to you in another one. Remember, you want your shapes to look organic. You don't want them to look too structured. Here, you don't see that traditional hot rod looking lick, but you see throwbacks to it, like right in here. This one lick right here kind of looks like the old hot rod lick. The same thing right in here. But that's where they got the idea to do it, as they watched this fire and they saw these shapes, and then they kind of did their stylized version of it. So now I'll do another little bridge right here, kind of make that one little lick a little thicker, and it looks like I want to highlight that a little bit. Now you can see that every color that I've used, the brighter it got, the less I've used of it, because a color's strong on its own. It doesn't need to have a whole lot down there. So the next step is to tack rag this thing off, and I'm going to go to the candy yellow, and the candy yellow really pops all this stuff. Where all the other candies tend to tint the other colors back, the candy yellow, or the pagan gold right here, tends to make everything glow. And this is the secret color to all this fire, is this pagan yellow, pagan gold candy. You can use Spanish gold also, which is more of a egg yolk yellow, but I like using this candy pagan gold. When I hit this, it's going to brighten everything up. It's going to brighten the orange, it'll brighten the yellow, it'll intensify the red, and then when the light hits it after it's cleared, it just gives it this light that's incredible. It's all the stuff that would have just been floating all over the place. It's a good idea to do this between every color. That way there, it'll keep you nice and clean. You won't get any lumps or dust particles going on. Okay, so now you can see my picture here. It's a lot more yellow than it is here. Now, you can adjust this color whatever way you want. Like if you like it more orangey, just add more orange candy towards the end. If you like it redder, add more red, which I will do. I'll come back with some red and kind of tweak it the way I want it. Or some people like it really yellow fire. And you'll get customers that will request it. And I don't like it as yellow as this, or as orange as that. I like it more like you did this vehicle, more like you did that one. And like I said, there are no rules to it. As long as the shapes are right and you get the colors in the right order, you'll be fine. And you can just custom adjust it to each individual customer's taste. Alright, so now the one thing that's missing here now is this brightest bright that you see right in here. And the way I do that is I'll take a little squirt of white, and a little chrome yellow. It doesn't take a lot of chrome yellow, but I want to show you something. This is the kind of way I mix my, you can do it this way if you're brave, or you can put the cap on and give it a shake. You gotta be careful though. Sometimes you can get a little splash in the face. Now I don't know if you can see this color, but the color is kind of sort of like a real pale yellow. But when I put it on here, it's gonna look white compared to, and that'll tell you how bright these colors are. Can you see that color right there? Okay, that'll tell you how bright these colors are when this yellow that you can see is yellow in my airbrush looks white against that. If you put pure white on it, it's almost too strong. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of spray these little hot spots in here. And what I'll do is I'll pick the brightest ones I want to hit, and I'll just hit the very edge of it a little bit like that. Find the shape that you used, and kind of just do like this. And then you can give it a little soft spray like that along the edge, and that gives it a little glow. Now every one of these little, where it's brightest yellow, is where I'll put just a little bit of that. this is really strong. You don't need a lot of this. If you put too much, you're gonna kill your color, and it'll just pale it, really pale it out, and you'll lose the life that you worked hard to get in that fire. A little bit there, a little bit there, maybe a little bit there, just a little touch of it in that one. You can actually make a point with this and have it make it look like a little flame lick, just like a little candle flame. And it looks like it would need it here. It doesn't look like much at first. You know, when you start doing it, you're like, oh, I don't know, man. I've had customers that, you know, thought I took the picture out of someone else's photo album and put them in mine. It's like when they saw me doing it, it's like, are you sure you know what you're doing? I said, yeah, just relax. Keep the faith, brother. Just a little. All right, so now you can see how it dances. When you just do a little bit here and there, your eye automatically picks up that one, then that one, then that one. And with all the other movement going on, with all the other color, it actually looks like it's doing this. Because your eye focuses here and they goes, oh, wait about that, and what about that over there? And for the non-artists, they're just blown away on how this stuff looks. This is, in 25 years of painting, this is the most popular effect that I've ever come up with. I call it true fire because it's a true representation of fire. It's not a flame job, it's a true fire flame job. And I would say probably right now, it's probably about 80% of my workload is this realistic fire. That's quite a bit when we do quite a few jobs here at the shop a year. Now you can see how that yellow, you see how it looks white there? It doesn't look yellow. Well, it looks like white to me anyways. Clean out the airbrush a little bit. And then what I'll do is I'll come back with that chrome yellow again. Where did I do with it? Not chrome yellow, I'm sorry. Pagan gold. Here it is. And I'll intensify that just a little bit more. Run a little reducer through the gun, get all your solid color out. Give it a quick little wipe. Now I'm just going to hit just the spots to kick them back just a little bit. Just those white spots that I just did, or those pale yellow spots that I did. You kind of pick and choose where you want to do this. It's like, oh, I want this a little brighter yellow right there, so just add a little bit. You kind of have to get a feel for it. Okay, so that's pretty much it right there for the way I want to build it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go tweak it a little bit. I'll take my candy red. I want to see all this red I have in my picture here. I want to kind of pick up some of this red in the background. Okay, so now I've got this candy red in here now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick up, I want to darken up some of the background. Like maybe this red over here. I want to make that little lick red. I want to make this a little redder. Okay. And you can see where it's intensifying the color. Now I'm going to make it redder towards the ends, just like it is, just like it's here. It's redder on the edges and towards the end of the fire than it is in here. Now see, like this hole we got right here? That's kind of like this hole we got going on right here. So I'm going to red that up a little bit. Try not to take away too much of your yellow and your orange because you're going to need those mid-range colors. Okay, and that's that. Now the next step, we're going to take the black. We're going to erase some areas that we don't like. And like I said, this is only for a black vehicle. You can't do this on a. This is where you got to be really careful when you're working on a red vehicle or orange or anything lighter. You got to be real specific about where you put your color. You can't just be spraying it all over the place. Now if you look right here, there's one little piece right here that's kind of off to the side. Just kind of looks like a mistake. So what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll just take and I'll just erase it away. Just get rid of it with the black. And best thing to do is not all black is black. So what you want to do is whatever vehicle you're working on, get the paint code for the base and have that base, because sometimes black is more like a charcoal. It's not really black. And if you go and put straight black, you'll see this spot there. But let's just say that the black you're working with is black. Now I'll come in and I'll just kind of erase a little bit of a tail off of that one there. I may want to make this area here look like it's faded off. This is where it's just tweaking. It's just a matter of personal taste. Like right here, you can see the edge of the freehand shield where it's rolled around. I want to get rid of that. Kind of make it look more like a natural shape than a stencil that was laid up against it. Now I don't recommend going in and shading like the way I showed you how to do the fire shadow. Okay, I don't recommend you coming in and maybe shading from here to here, putting black on top of that color, because that'll just totally kill your look. But if you want to make it look like there's a hole right here, that's kind of cool. You can do that. I like where I've connected them, I kind of break them up here and there so they don't look like it's all one string of fire. So that's pretty much it, you know, as far as the tweaking goes, erasing and getting rid of unwanted little lines. Now the next step, I'm going to clean out the airbrush really good and go on to the Passion Purple Pearl. Now this color here we're going to do next is not something that's really natural. It's not something you find in nature really, but it's just the coup de grace, so to speak, on this fire. It just, if you look on some of these pieces that I have around me, you can see some right up in here. It's just a beautiful little complementary color to the hot color. So it's a cool color against the hot, and it's got a nice pearl shimmer to it. So you only see it in certain times when the light hits it. So when a vehicle is moving down the road, you see that fire, and then all of a sudden, ooh, you see a little flicker of purple here and there, and it's just a really nice touch. As a matter of fact, it's probably the most favorite part of the fire that comments I've gotten from my customers was, oh, I love the purple that's in that. You can do it with blue, you can do it with purple. I like the purple because it's more on the redder side. Now one thing you want to do is when this stuff sits in your bottles like this, you want to really give it a good shake, because it tends to settle. The pearl tends to settle at the bottom. And if you don't shake it up really good, you're just going to end up with like a purple color and no pearl. Now what I'm going to do is, right around the very edges of this fire, like where it gets darker, I'm just going to put just a little bit of this purple. I like especially doing it around these embers. Don't spray over the ember. Kind of put a little halo around it. And a little trail off like that. And what I do is, if you see, I'm kind of like painting it so it fades away from the fire. And I'll put a little bit, wherever you do this black in here, say if it's a little too black, just come back in with that purple a little bit and just hit it. You can even do like a little trailing deal away from it like this. And that's it. There you have it. That's the Killer Paint True Fire effect technique. Now if you want to see what this is going to look like after it's cleared, what I recommend doing is taking the KC20, the water-based cleaner, and you can either put it in a spray bottle. Well, I'll just put a little bit here in this cup, and I'll add it on top of this, and it'll give the look of a clear coat. You can see what it's going to look like when it's cleared. If you use the wax and grease remover, it tends to be a little bit aggressive, and sometimes when you're wiping it off, it'll take away some of your fine little mist. So I recommend using the water-based stuff. But watch this. Watch what this looks like when you wet this. Let me just kind of move it around here a little bit. You can kind of see how the purple pops out and all the colors get intensified. Now you can look at it here and say, okay, I like the way it looks, but maybe I want it a little bit redder. You can wipe this off, and this will do two things. It'll clean off your overspray, and you'll actually dry it off, get it nice and clean. And then you can go back in and add in any more candy that you want to add in, like if you want to add in a red spot over here or make it a little yellower or whatever. But it's a good way to kind of check and see what you've got going on. So, and then this will not affect your paint in any way. So it's a safe way of checking your artwork. You can paint this True Fire on anything. Motorcycle tanks. You saw it on fire hydrants. Here it is on a helmet. Trucks, cars, boats. I painted on anything that sits still. Play around with it. I mean, there are no rules except to have fun. That's the only rule. There, the secret's out. You know how to do my killer paint True Fire technique. I want you to go out and have fun with it. Show me what you've done and just rock and roll, baby. Light her up. This car is a 1934 5-window coupe hot rod. First thing you're gonna see me do is you're gonna see me lay out my road map, if you will. What I mean by that is if you're going on a trip, you're gonna need a map, and you gotta know where you're going and how to get there. So what I do on the vehicle is I'll look at the lines of the vehicle and I'll actually lay out a rough guideline. You can see right here my outline that I just laid in real quick. It looks like a pencil line, but that's actually just a paint line that I did with the Molly Orange. Now if you notice, I work pretty fast. I work fast, and when I want to get a broader area covered with paint, I'll open up the airbrush and I'll actually pull the airbrush a lot further away from the surface. You see I'm working probably 8-9 inches away from the board. You can see that I work pretty fast. If you paint slower than this, I mean, at first you're going to have to, but once you gain your confidence on your layout, the faster you work, the more natural your fire is going to look. If you really lay it down and try to draw it and perfect and everything, it's going to look too contrived and it's not going to look like natural fire. Here's the beginning of the skull that we did on the back of the car. You can see me here working on this now. I got a really loose layout right there. I do this all freehand. I have a basic idea how I want this to look when I start off, but I never know what I'm going to get. You can see me kind of roughing in the eyes, the nose, and then the rough shape of the head right there. It kind of just poured right out of the end of the airbrush. You can buy these airbrushes preloaded with artwork, or you can just make it up yourself. No, I'm just kidding. You got to work hard at it, but you can do it. There it is. You can see now. Now there's the roadmap for the skull and the trunk fire. But there it is. There's the Molly Orange Step 1. After we got the roadmap done, now we're going to jump into Step 2, which is the candy red base coat. We're going to red up everything that we've got on there. I like really making this stuff red, pushing it way in the background. You'll see me using the Seda Mini Jet. This saves a lot of time. You can use a bigger gun if you want to use one of the Seda bigger guns. But I find that the Mini Jet is pretty good for this because I can just do a little small section, or we can do a wider section. But on black, it doesn't matter. Let the candy flow over. If you look, you can see there's a light, like a darker glow line around some of these strokes, like the first orange strokes. That's where the candy actually goes beyond the orange. But on black, it just disappears. You can see right here coming up on the running board. See that dark area around the stroke? That's where your candy actually is. But now when you're doing a lighter color vehicle, you can't do that. Okay, back to the orange again. Using the Iwata HPCS. Put the Molly Orange back in the brush. Now I'm going in and I'm redefining some of these flame licks. Now, remember this saying, dark to light, loose to tight. Now we started off darker, and you can see that we're getting lighter, and the strokes are getting tighter now. You can see I'm kind of picking out shapes and What I'll do is I won't repeat what I've already painted down before. Like I said when we were painting the panel, I'm kind of using opposing strokes. So I want the licks to kind of go a little bit in a different direction than the ones that are underneath. That will create movement when this thing is finally done. Okay, notice what I'm going to do here. I loosely outline the flame lick. Now, see how I spray in a circle? I open up the airbrush and spray in a circle. That way there, you don't get a, you don't see these, side-to-side brush strokes. It's more natural looking, I guess. It's just a little personal way I do things. I mean, it's not a right or wrong way. It's just kind of a little quirk I have when I airbrush. And then redefining it. And then you're going to go through the whole, this is what takes the longest, is redefining all this stuff. Some people would have quit on the first step and said, yeah, that looks great. But, now you gotta, now see how I just did it again. I did a loose drawing of the flame lick shape, put the shield down, put a hard edge on, and then here I'm doing it again. And then I do a little circle flip and kind of fill in, but I leave the little outline. Now, it looks like it would be wrong. It looks like you made a mistake there, but when this is all said and done and all put together, all those little outlines that you see actually make up movement lines. You'll see how it works. It's pretty effective. Now see that little loop that I just put in there? I went, oops. I came in and I said, oh, I'll just cover that. There you go, it's gone. That was a little mistake right there, but just find a creative way of fixing it. A little camouflage. Sometimes when I'm painting this stuff, I'll just keep going and going and going, and I don't know where I'm gonna go. And on black, like I said, you can come back and take some things out that you don't like. Okay, on the running boards, I make the fire look like it's trailing off, and here's where I start breaking it off into these little embers. It gives these a lot of character strokes right here. That little chit 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 all the way out, and there it is. Now here we see step 3 finished, and the next step is to go to the candy orange, a candy tangerine, and now we're gonna push this level back with the candy tangerine. So you can see there's a nice good walk around on the car. Kind of like what's going on. I like the volume of it. I like the movement. And let's get to the candy. Okay, now I've loaded up the mini jet with the candy tangerine, and now I'm gonna punch up this stuff with the candy now. Watch how this intensifies that color. Look at the color just in front of it that I haven't hit yet, and then look at where this candy's going down. I gotta tell you guys that this candy is the absolute secret of this whole fire. If you want to make this stuff look like it glows, do not skip these steps. These are very, very important. You can see where your candy's going down. I'm just laying it on there. Now, if this is a regular candy job, we'd have tiger stripes all over this thing. But with this real fire, you can just kind of like lay it right on there. You don't have to worry about it. You can see my spray pattern there. You can see the kind of like the sheen on the hood there. Now, this is where my customers, if they watch me do this, think I've lost my mind. But now here we are, highlighting the orange on the skull on the back. And next step, chrome yellow. Now you're starting to get tighter and tighter. You see I've changed the freehand shield to a different shape. You don't want to keep using the same one over and over and over and over and over again, because it gets too repetitive and it doesn't look natural. So what I'll do is I'll take a different shaped shield and go from there and just kind of like build on what we got. This is where it starts getting interesting. This is where your shapes are really going to start to get defined. And actually, this probably takes the longest of all the steps, is when you start getting tighter here, because the tighter you get, the more accurate you got to be, and the slower you got to go. And before you could just like start laying the stuff out, but now you see me kind of actually going in and tightening it up, and it takes a lot longer to do. One thing I want to say here, I don't want you guys to get overwhelmed by this, because you're watching me do it and I'm making it look pretty easy. And for me, it is easy. I've been doing it a long time. But what I would recommend doing is starting out first on easier projects. Like grab yourself
a mailbox, or maybe a steel trash can, or maybe even a toilet seat lid, and practice painting this stuff. And when you get it down, you can give them away as gifts or sell them or whatever. People will love you, and you know, you won't be heartbroken if it didn't work. Like, say if you tried to do this on a motorcycle or someone's car, you know, for the first time. So I would definitely recommend trying this on something other than a vehicle first. See if you can get some aluminum of it, and you know, you can't go back and do them all, you know. But just like anything else, there's always going to be improvements. Now you can see here where I've just totally painted over the first couple of layers I had right down and almost hid them. Well, I did and I didn't. If you notice, the centers of those strokes, like I showed you on the panel, are sort of transparent. So when the clear goes on, all those other colors are going to blend through, and you're going to see all these layers down there. And it's going to actually look like you can stick your hand down in there 3 or 4 inches when we're done. This is the part that here I am like, what shape should I use? This part here just takes the longest. This is the one I hate the most, is this very first yellow. But it's really important. What I'll do is I'll pick out licks that I've got that I like, and I'll build on them, and I'll hide the ones that I don't. And this whole time I'm going back, I'm thinking in my head, that's all right, I can come back with the black and I'll erase that later on. I don't care if that didn't work out exactly the way I had planned. And that way there, the stuff looks natural. You want this fire to have life and movement. You don't want it to look static, you know, just like all the same shape. You want it to look like a, you know, you can pick the type of fire. You want a slow rolling fire, you want a blowtorch, you want to, you know, look like you're coming in on re-entry. I mean, you pick the style that you want, and just paint it. But the key to this is make sure you have good reference pictures. Here's another thing that I like to do too. You'll notice on this hot rod, what I did is I kind of did a kickback to the old way they painted flames, where the whole front end of the car would be, you know, like almost white hot solid, and then the colors got darker as they went back. Well, instead of making all the licks, you know, all the flame licks separate, I tend to come in and I'll fog in the yellow in the front to give it more of a solid look, like it's the actual source of the fire. It's the very edge of the. See how I just filled that all in right there, and it's not just not like a little lick. And I'll come back in and I'll tweak this, but I have an idea where I want the whole front end of this car to look yellow, and like the yellow paint is actually turning into fire. See how it's a little more, and it looks like I'm covering up everything that I did, but there's a reason for it. You have to do that underpainting. Otherwise, it's just not going to look right. And the bigger the project, the longer this process takes. I've done tractor trailers where I thought I was going to shoot myself by the time I was done. But, you know, be careful what you wish for, you may get it. I said, oh, I want to do a really big, cool job. You don't want to do one of these big tractor trailers. All right, now we're jumping on the trunk of the car here. We're going to redefine the fire skull that's on the back. See, I played with the fire a little bit, and now I'm coming in and building up the highlights. And I want to make this skull almost look reflective. I just like the looks of it. And you notice I'll put like these little spots on the forehead. They almost look like if it was a bald guy and there was 3 light bulbs above his head shining. You know, and you can see one of them there. And then I'll go in and I'll build up the teeth, and I'll build up the reflections underneath the jawline. You can see how I'm just kind of playing with it. I'm using the different edge of that. See how I just, what I did is, that was kind of a cool thing what I did right there. I took the round edge of that mask and I sprayed away from the skull. That way I was using the negative space as the edge of the skull. I didn't actually paint the skull line. I painted the fire behind it and it made the skull line. Now the guy I painted this for has a goatee and a mustache, so I kind of wanted to paint this with a little bit of a goatee looking thing. There you go, you can see it right there. All right, now, next step is the candy tangerine over the yellow. Now, if you notice, I'm gone to the airbrush. You can use the mini jet if you want, but I like using this little airbrush because I'm coming in little tight spots. I'm actually leaving some of the yellow down because I'm gonna tint some of the yellow with the orange. There we go. There's that little. You see how I just dance around this whole thing? Now, if you look at the fire, kind of right where I'm painting right now, you notice how it's starting to really come to life color-wise? I mean, it looked pretty dead before. Now what I'll do is I'll go in and then, like I showed you on the panel, I'll paint these holes. I'll paint these holes and darken them up a little bit because I want to push them back. And I actually work this fast. I mean, it looks like it's speeded up, but that's the way I work. And I've always done it. I've always worked that fast. You don't have to work that fast. It's just habit. Now, if you notice in this still frame right here, look at the left side of the car. It's got the orange in it, and the right side doesn't. See how you can see how it's starting to build up color and form on the left side. Now I'm going to come back over to the right and finish all that. Now it's really starting to take some life. You'll see when you start doing yours. You'll know that after you put this candy down, you can start seeing it, and you're gonna get all jazzed right at this point here. See that fender right there? That look bitchin'. See how far away I'm staying from it? And I kind of spray with I don't know, a lot of guys would be yelling at me right now, but I like to spray with a high pressure. And the reason I like high pressure, I like the way it atomizes the candy. It just, instead of chunky, it comes out really like a fine mist. I usually shoot, 60 pounds of pressure. And I find too that I can get a lot finer line with a higher pressure than I can with, say, 35 or 45. If I was doing illustration or something, I'd crank the pressure way down, but I don't know, it's a bad habit, I guess. I don't know. You'll find what you like to do best, and other professionals will tell you, different things, and just like everyone's got their own way of doing things, and that's the way I do it. I've had pretty good luck with it so far, so if it ain't broke, I'm not fixing it. Okay, now what I've done is I'm gone to the Pagan Gold Candy. I went back to the mini jet, and gonna get it in the gun there. I'm gonna open up the pattern so it's nice and wide. And now what I did is, remember where I left the yellow on the fire and only painted a little bit with candy orange? This is why. So I come back with the yellow, and the yellow actually will hit the yellow areas and blend right into the orange candy. So I'll get a nice transition from yellow to orange yellow. This color right here, guys, is the secret to the glow of this fire. Where all the other candies tend to darken this thing, like I said before, this candy yellow, for some reason, it just brightens everything up. I mean, it intensifies the yellow, intensifies the red and the orange. Watch where it goes over there. You can see the color actually come alive. And the reason why I'm using the mini jet is because I want a real nice wide, even pattern across there instead of just hitting little areas like I did with the airbrush. You can see I'm just doing overlapping coats here. Better if you bring him that piece of work all all cleaned off, and he doesn't have to go through and clean all that garbage off of there. So just go through between each coat and make sure you clean it off really good. There I am, hitting the candy yellow all over the whole outer area and over the skull. Okay, now the next step, we're going to take the 50-50 white and chrome yellow. It looks white there, but when you actually put it in the cup, it's like a sort of like a pale pastel yellow, but against all those other bright colors, it looks white. And what I'm doing is I'm just picking out the hot spots. You do not want to overdo this. You can get really crazy with this stuff, and it'll just ruin it, really all the work that you've already put into it. If you notice, I'll come in and I'll hit the very front end of this vehicle is going to be the hottest source of the fire, so that's where you're going to have more of this. And the brighter the color, the less you want to use because it's strong. Okay, now see how I start using the shield here with this white? Look at what I just did over the eyebrows. I made it almost look like it was polished, I don't know, like a polished orange stone almost, like a gemstone. And this is a cool little trick. I hit the little hot spot. And then what I'll do is I'll pull away from it and give it a soft glow. And what it looks like a little reflection of a light somewhere. So make the little spot and then just pull away, and as you pull away, your pattern widens up and goes softer. Now here I use the curve of the shield to make it the curve of the skull. See how it looks like? It looks like a polished round, I don't know, like a round orange gemstone. Now I'll come in, I'm highlighting there along the nose and the teeth and the skull. I'll bounce back and forth. I'll put some little back reflections, like that flame look that's coming out of his eye is reflecting on his under his upper eyelid. It takes a little bit of practice, but you know, you can get it. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is use your pagan gold candy again and hit all those white spots. Now you can use Spanish gold too, which is more like an egg yolk yellow, which is a nice color too. But this will really punch up your color. Okay, now's the time when you can come in and erase all those mistakes that you put in there. So I got the base coat black in, and I'm actually trimming off some lines. You watch, you'll see things disappear here in a minute. What I like to do is, like where everything is connected, I'll make it and I'll use the black to break. And here's another thing too. See these little body lines? They catch all kinds of overspray. So I'll take that black and I'll just kind of clean that up. Now here's some of those spots on the hood I didn't like. See what I did? I just broke off that long tail and made that ember look like it was snapping off the end of the fire lick. This is such a nice thing to be able to do on these black vehicles. See? Bye-bye. Don't like it? Get rid of it. Yep. There you go. And just go through your whole project and trim it up. Just like take out all the unwanted stuff, reshape it. And actually what it does is it will soften up areas that, and people go, how the heck did they do that? Because, you know, other airbrush artists won't be able to figure out how you did that. And all you did was cover up some of your stuff. Now we're going to come in and we're going to detail the skull a little bit, going to darken in the eyes and highlight around the teeth, and maybe just redefine the areas in the mouth like this. You can get, see how if I've taken my crown cap off of the airbrush, and I like to get really close to the surface that I'm working on, so I can get a super fine line. Just go in, same thing, clean up the stuff you don't like. I see those lines over to the right that are annoying me right now. Just looking at this thing, I want to get rid of them. But I'm sure that I did. And if I didn't, I'll have to call a customer in and redo it because it's driving me crazy. I like to see that, just put the little skull, the little cracks in the skull. I don't know what the technical term is. See, there goes those, oh, I just ran out of color. There we go. There's your skull. Pretty cool looking. And when that gets cleared, it's going to look badass. Now, here's the coup de grace here. What I do is I take that Shimmer and Passion Purple Pearl. Now this step I add in because I like it. It doesn't really happen in nature, but I'll tell you, the purple, the cool color, it gives a beautiful complement to all the hot colors that you're putting on. And what I'll do is I'll put it around all the edges. You can see where I've laid it in there. And just go in and hit all the edges where it looks like the fire would have cooled off. And when this thing is cleared, it just blings like crazy. And it just, that purple, when it goes into the orange, it changes it to a magenta. And where we've worked with a handful of colors, you're going to end up with literally hundreds of different colors, different values, all the way through this whole project, just because of the candy colors affecting each and every layer. Now look at that color right there. I mean, it looks hot already, and it hasn't even been cleared yet. When you add the clear, all these colors are intensified. So if it looks bright to you now, it's going to look twice as bright once it's cleared. Just go in here and there. You don't want to overdo this, but you want to put enough on there too. You can use Magic Blue Pearl. You can use, I like using this Passion Purple Pearl. If you want to make it bluer, you can either use the Magic Blue or do a 50-50 mix of Magic Blue and Passion Purple, and you get a nice deep blue ribbon blue purple. But out of all the comments I've gotten on this stuff from my customers, the purple, they freak out over it. I don't know what it is about it, they just love it. And that's it. Next step is to go to clear coat, and that's where I let the other professionals on my team take over. Look at that fender. That is outstanding. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bling bling with the purple on the skull. Put it in the eyes and give the eyes kind of like a nice cool looking look to them. We'll add a little detail in there. Those look pretty cool. I really like that. I think that's pretty cool. Now, next thing you know, always sign your work. Be proud of your stuff. Put your name on it. There we go. I'm using the House of Color lettering, pinstriping colors. Just use the violet, and that's it.
Make it all shiny.
Huh? Okay, now here's Pef. Pef works with me at my shop, outstanding painter. He's taken the Seda spray gun there and he's going to run the clear coat on. We like to put 3 coats of clear on here. The UC35 clear, House of Color clear. You'll see him just giving it some really nice even coverage right there. See, I don't do any of my own clear coat. I kind of specialize in what I do, and I hire people who are good at what they do. So, and Pef's one of the best. These guys will make you look good. Always surround yourself with quality people. If you don't do any of this stuff, hire people that do a really good job that just make you look even better. So, you can take a mediocre paint job and put an awesome finish coat on it and make it look really good. But you can take an awesome paint job and put a lousy finish coat on it and it'll just ruin it. You can see the need for using a spray booth and a respirator and a chute suit so you don't get any dirt coming in on your clear. 90% of the dirt you're going to get on a clear coat job comes off the painter. So if you're just going in the booth with your regular clothes on, it's just a recipe for danger, for trouble. You can see the nice even patterns going on there. Look at those colors just bam right out of there. And you'll see once we pull this family, they just could not believe it. And this for me is, like I said, this is, I need money because I'm in this to make a living, but I'll tell you right now, what I get from these customers when they see this stuff is well worth way more than the money to me.
How do you think?
Hey, like that, Bad Daddy? That's a hot the little voices in my head tell me that they're sick. I told you I'd take care of you. Look at that car on the sunlight. I mean, it looks like it's on fire. There's no two ways about it. And see how we got the fire kind of angling up? Just looks like it would naturally rip off that corner of that car. And here we go with the badass skull, the Bad Daddy on the back. That was his nickname, Bad Daddy. That was his license plate, so we kind of played that up with the skull. And there you have it. Killer paint, true fire. Take 300.
Go whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name's Майком Лавалли, and I'm from Killer Paint.
I'm in Killer Paint.
Sounded stupid.
Yeah, go.
Something else. Gotta tell you more stuff. More stuff. Speaking English. Speaking with both lips and tongue. The true fire secrets of Killer Paint. That's not it. It's got an cut. You're gonna have this in the excerpt,
Yeah, the little,
okay.
the
Yeah.
beep,
Yeah.
beep that means.
The Seda. You want to arm yourself with quality guns. Quality means quality, and Seda is quality. Killer Paint recommends them. You should try them too.
That's all, folks.